Back at you with another episode coming at you from chooseyourrelationships.com, author of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on amazon.com. So my special guest today has been featured in the New York Times as a full-time traveler, author, speaker who helps frustrated professionals travel full-time. Since leaving her corporate job, she's traveled solo to 27 countries, 6 continents over the past 4 years. She's been featured in the New York Times, the New Zealand Herald, Entrepreneur.com, and a regular contributor to Travel Awaits magazine. My special guest today is Heather Markel. Welcome to this show.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Yeah, so where are you from originally?
Well, some would say another planet, but officially New York City.
Oh, okay. So you're born and raised and everything.
Yep.
So, like I said before we started recording, the reason why I wanted to bring you on because you seem like you traveled a lot and you made the transition of leaving the corporate job and to, doing your own thing, being what some people would call a digital nomad. so how did that come about? Because, more than likely you probably took the traditional, well, I'm not gonna say the traditional route, but a route that a lot of people take. You finish high school, you go to college,
Yep.
well, you graduate, and you're so excited, and when you get out into this workforce, you be like, this is not what I thought it would be. So how did it happen for you?
Yeah, and God, that would be a whole other side discussion. My thoughts on that whole evolution of we're so excited to go into corporate, but anyway. So to be fair, so I speak 6 languages, and I lived with a host family when I was 16, and they had a herd of cows. So I fell in love with the cows and speaking a foreign language, and that was always part of who I am. And when I started my career in corporate, I actually pretty quickly got a job with a French company and was able to use my fluent French. And then I went to a British company and I became a joint venture liaison, and I was able to use all my language skills, which was great. But then in 2002, I got moved into an American company where my language skills were useless. I asked, each manager, how can I use my language skills? Can I transfer? It's a global company. Can I move to another country? I tried everything. And I just was more and more miserable year by year. But the problem with all that training, right? We graduate, we think we're so excited to go to corporate, is we also think we're excited to be able to retire with great benefits and have healthcare and be able to buy a bigger box to fit more stuff along the way. And so I had for years, my heart was like, I want to travel. Every time I go on vacation, which, is like a week or two, I didn't want to come home. But I was thinking my job, I got to go back to my job. I got to go back to this appointment that I made. So I did until eventually pain was the ultimate catalyst for me to leave my job, because I find when your emotion is really strong and pushing you in a different direction, and you don't take action on that emotional pull, then you basically create all that physical pain. And for me, I had a previous experience where I was fighting between my head and my heart and ended up herniating 2 discs in my neck. And then in January 2017, my heart, my chest began to hurt. And I said, I'm not turning this pain into God knows what that could become. I'm going to quit my job and just have faith in myself for a change. So, that led up to why I quit and having the courage to actually do it. And the year I decided to quit, I challenged myself to look for opportunities to take risks and prove that I was actually ready. And I did, and I went through with it.
Wow, that's a great story. Peace of mind. Nothing beats having peace of mind. So how many languages do you speak? What languages you speak?
So I speak six. I speak English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, and a little Japanese. And anytime I go to a new country, I try to learn at least, do you speak English in their language? Because especially because of living with that French host family at 16, who taught me about, the ugly American that goes and travels and just expects everyone to speak English. And I knew like I didn't want to be that person. And I feel very sensitive that when we go to somebody else's country, it's like entering someone else's home.
Yeah.
And you want to be respectful and learn the language and the customs as much as you can. Even if some of us aren't able to learn languages, but you can learn a phrase. You can pull up Google Translate and show people something. So I think we should all make that effort when we travel.
Yeah, I'm learning Spanish and Portuguese now.
Oh, great. Brazilian Portuguese or Portugal Portuguese?
Brazilian.
Yeah, because it's two different languages, and Brazilian's much easier to understand.
Yeah, it's it's tough.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah. So, what did you have a culture shock? Well, hold on. Where's the first where was the first country you went to when you left America?
So when I started full-time traveling or before?
Yeah.
So when I started full-time traveling, I decided to go. I had 2 weeks. I was like, oh my, it's just so funny. It's like, I finally quit my job. I can go anywhere in the world. And that's when I realized the world is actually really big. And it's overwhelming when, you've been restricted all your life to this 1 or 2 weeks, and you don't want to get too jet lagged because that ruins the whole experience. And now the world's my oyster, literally. So I decided to go somewhere I hadn't been that wasn't too far. And so I chose Costa Rica. So I went to Costa Rica, and I went also into Panama and Nicaragua while I was in that area.
Yeah. I haven't been down there, Costa Rica, yet, but I've heard it's nice. I haven't heard anybody.
It's very nice. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about it. So did you have a culture shock? Because being here, all your life, and when you go somewhere else, you don't even necessarily have to stay there for a long period of time. You can go there for a week, twice, and go somewhere else, for a week, and then when you start going to all these places, let me tell you my experience. When I started going to all these places, I'm like, wait a minute, you start learning that what you thought, that's not how it is in these other places.
Yeah.
It's an American thing here.
Yes. Yeah, I don't I think I had culture shock my first few times out of the country, but now it's more like culture fascination. And so certainly to your point, what I've learned is that the news we hear about a country is often based on governments and politics.
Yeah.
And so the government and politics of a country does not accurately reflect the people of a culture, right?
There you go.
So, I went to Colombia, and what do you hear about Colombia? And I'm like, I went with a friend, and I was like, oh gosh, what am I in for? My God, people were lovely. And, sure enough, there are remnants of guerrilla warfare with gates on apartments. And when you go, I went into a nightclub, and there was a window, and there was this much space, barely enough to shove your hand under to say, I want 2 tickets, and slide the money in and get the ticket. Yeah. But apart from that, I mean, it was a beautiful country and wonderful people. So I feel like there's 2 things that happen for me when I travel. One is the fascination of learning, how people live and how differently they live and how much they appreciate what they have. And in 2019, I went to South America and Africa for the first time in my life. And, what was tough about that, and I'd say things that were hard was like I went to Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, and
Oh,
I saw the Vietnam War Museum,
mm,
and I remember as a kid hearing about like Agent Orange, but like in passing, like
yeah,
I didn't know what it was. It was just something that they used in that war.
yeah,
But then I'm in Vietnam, and first off, I'm seeing like in 2018, I'm seeing these people. I remember seeing people, saw a woman whose hands touched the ground, like her arms were really long,
mhm,
and like the birth defects that are still
yeah,
happening.
yeah,
And then to see that museum, I mean, I was just in tears that, you learn a lot more about history and life than a textbook will ever teach you. And then through South America and Africa, looking at poverty on different levels.
yeah,
And, and yet, and why is it that the Northern Hemisphere has so much more wealth than the Southern Hemisphere, and learning kind of why that is. And,
yeah,
you know, as a white person, like thinking about like my ancestors and what has been done, and learning about history and the impact on everyone of actions that were taken. So those are the things to me that were sometimes shocking, but also allowed me to expand my own awareness and gain curiosity and learn a lot more than I think I ever would had I not traveled.
yeah. I'm a veteran. I went in the Navy for a couple of years,
Okay.
and so that's how my journey started. And even since I got out, I didn't. A lot of well, there's a lot of veterans in Vietnam. They live there, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I didn't even know that. And somebody told me, well, my question was, why is that? They said, well, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with them winning a long time ago. I mean, so that kind of made me curious and everything. And one thing I liked about being in the Navy is that they tell the truth. You're going to get the truth. You might not like it, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
If they say, hey, we took this land over in 1940, took it over. Now, see, the thing is, the reason why I said that, because you're not going to get that out here. You're going to get a bunch of lies, and you might not ever. It might take you 5-10 years before you find out the truth, as far as what happened. And nothing happens by accident.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way out here, So when did you, I guess, you got to a point where you said, hey, I want to make this a lifestyle. I want to keep going like
Yeah.
this. When did you get to that point?
I think it was yeah. So it was the first year I did it. I mean, when I quit my job, I honestly thought I was taking a 3 to 6 month career break to go travel the world. The thing that since I didn't know what I wanted to do, and the thing I love most in the world is traveling and meeting people, I thought I'll do that for 3 or 6 months, and then by some miracle will happen, and I'm either going to meet someone that points me to my next job, or I'll just come back and I'll job search after that. And so I did my, Costa Rica, Central America tour, and then I came back for jury duty. And then I went back out to Europe for about 4 months. And then I kind of realized I really love what I'm doing. Why would I give this up? And I think the other shock was that the reason, I help people now who want to travel full time to do it. And one of the biggest shocks, and what's hard when you live this lifestyle, is the immediate reaction from some people is, oh, you must be really rich. And it's really funny because the shock was I spent a heck of a lot less money traveling full time than I did living in New York. Yeah. So, I began thinking about it, and I'm like, well, I started looking at money differently. And I'm like, wow, the money I'm paying for my apartment, to keep my apartment in New York City, could get me anywhere from like you know, 3 months of travel, like just per month, that one, you know, 1 month's rent. And I'm like, well, if I got rid of my apartment, that would free up a lot of money. So, you know, and of course, New York is hard because it's, if you don't have a decent paying job and you can't prove like 6 months security and all this stuff, you can't get an apartment here. So I'm like, oh gosh, what am I doing? But, you know, a friend pointed out to me, like, you know, if you do decide to live in New York again after you travel, wouldn't you want to maybe try a different part of New York? And I'm like, good point. Yeah, maybe. So, so yeah, so that's when I came back from Europe and put my lease ended. So you know, I had just committed to the end of the lease, put everything, like put what I kept into storage, got rid of some stuff, and then just did it. And then went to Asia, and I was like, all right, I'm committed. I'm gonna.
Hey, what did your friends think?
Well, there were, I mean, many different reactions. Like I said, some friends thought, oh, I must be rich. Other people, it's funny, some people were like jealous and, oh, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, well, you can. And then when we explored it, there are some people that think they want to do it, but then, you know, I gave up a lot to be able to live this way. And a lot of people don't want to give up those things. So, right, it's like from a distance, I admire what you're doing, but the truth be told, I'm actually happy with my, you know, happier with my life than I've realized. I'll watch you do it. But then there's the other category that are like, oh my God, I have to do this. Like, how can I do this?
Yeah, there is I think there's a give and take. But I think for me personally, I would like, I actually did it for about 6 months. So I think the best thing about it for me is like you get new experiences. You get to meet new people. You get to go new places that you probably haven't been or wanted to go back to. And I think the hard part for me is I had to I'm by myself most of the time.
Yes.
So that, you know, sometimes I have days where I want to be around my friends. I want my friends to be here so we can experience this together, but they can't because they have to work. So it's definitely a give and take, you know.
Yes.
But traveling is priceless. It's all worth it. I wouldn't I wouldn't do, you know, I don't have any regrets. That's what I would say, you know. So at what point did you say, hey, I can teach other people how to do this? Because I know people are probably more than likely to ask you, hey, how you maintain financially when you're out here, you know?
Yeah, well, honestly, I think it happened because of the pandemic. You know, I started reading these articles about people having these epiphanies because they were stuck at home, about their life and what they wanted. And I'm reading and I'm like, oh yeah, I had the exact same epiphanies 2 years ago when I quit, because I intentionally made myself the time to think about these questions. And I was really lucky to get marooned in New Zealand for 2 years. So I'm just back to New York City a couple months ago. And so while I was there, and there was a period of time we were in lockdown, couldn't go anywhere. That was the time a friend suggested that I think about, you know, helping people that are either lost their job and want to do something different or are looking for something different. And I started creating programs where I gave all the information that I knew would help people, both with, you know, how to afford full-time travel, you know, how to figure out when you're ready to start traveling full-time if you have that job, how to afford, you know, how to make money without a full-time job, and then some of the real nitty-gritty financial aspects of like, how do you really get in there and on a detailed level understand how to make this lifestyle not just possible, but sustain it for as long as you want. So I think it was really the pandemic that led up to all of that.
Gotcha. So when was the first, when was your first trip? When you knew, hey, I'm going for a while and I'm not coming back. This was before the pandemic?
Yeah, well, I started traveling in 2018, and that's when I went to Costa Rica when I had quit. But in 2017, when I set myself the goal of challenging myself to see if I was really, really ready and committed to quitting, I did go to Iceland on vacation. I went for a week. It was my second trip there, but the first time seeing the Northern Lights, and I was just flabbergasted, and I loved it so much I didn't want to leave. And as always, I felt I had to return to my responsibilities. I tried to get the airline to there was a snowstorm, and I'm like, oh, maybe you don't have enough seats, or maybe the flight's canceled. Like, I didn't want to own making it happen. I wanted it to be someone else's responsibility. But so I went home, felt I had made a mistake the whole way home, landed. I was like, I don't belong here. I should have stayed, and booked a flight back the very next day. And because the forecast to see the Northern Lights again was that good. And there's a interesting story of how the events turned out because of the way I made my choice. But I ultimately went back, saw the Northern Lights again. This time I saw the lights dance, which I hadn't seen the first time. So that was the first trip where I was like, yeah, like I can control my destiny, if you will. And I'm so glad I came back here. For once, I listened to my heart and I came back. So yeah. And actually the funny thing about Costa Rica is Costa Rica really sealed the deal for me, because 2 weeks into that trip, I had a meltdown and I think this happens for a lot of people they work full time and they give up the work and then they travel. If you're used to 2-week vacations, at that 2-week mark, you've spent a long part of your life taking vacation. It's when you hit that 2-week mark and you're not going back home and back to your job that you suddenly realize, oh, this isn't a vacation. Huh. And that's when all these things set in, some of which are boredom, some of which are, what the hell am I doing? In my case, I was trying to meet 2 new friends I had made traveling, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I just thought, if I can't figure out how to meet these new friends, I clearly am not cut out for full-time travel. I should just go home and give up. I'm a failure. And I had a meltdown. And because of that meltdown, once I got over my pity party, I tapped into my own resourcefulness. And once I did that, I had a spiritual encounter, and I was like, that's it. I'm in. I'm fully in.
Yeah. So name some of your favorite places that you've been.
Thank you for saying some of, because a lot of people ask me my favorite place, and there's more than one. So Cape Town, South Africa wowed me. It's one of the few places in the world I went and was like, I think I want to live here. Just the wildlife around Africa in general, but just that Table Mountain and the views and the people and the wine, and I don't know, it felt like I had sort of been there before. And I don't know if that's because the cradle of mankind is in Johannesburg, and mankind evolved from from our, I guess, ape ancestors there, and so there must be some connection, but I just had that visceral connection to the land, very much in Africa, and especially Cape Town, but also I love Namibia. I loved Argentina. I was there for 4 months. Peru is amazing. The food, the culture, the colors, the Machu Picchu, everything about it. Uruguay probably has one of the best. I love Malbec from Argentina, but Uruguay is the best wine, I think, red wine that I've ever tasted. So that was another favorite. Easter Island also blew me away.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't. I haven't been to any of those places yet.
Yeah. Oh, and I should of course say New Zealand because hey, I was there 2 years and it's a pretty awesome country.
Yeah. So, do you find it hard to have like to meet people when you're out and about?
Well, I would say I generally don't, and certainly pre-pandemic, before wearing masks, I would just walk up to basically anyone and start conversations, and I'm pretty outgoing, and I think being a solo traveler, you need to let go of some of your shyness and if you're introverted, because otherwise you are going to be by yourself.
Yeah.
So, um, I had zero problems meeting people when I traveled. Now in the masked up world, I have been surprised because I've done some traveling wearing a mask, that actually we still talk to each other and we still can engage. But it is disappointing that, to me, the biggest asset we all have is eye contact and a smile. And now we can't tell anymore if you're smiling. So, yeah.
Yes, it can be difficult, and the rules change from week to week, and you can't. It's sometimes hard to keep up with it. From what I've been told, well, I haven't been anywhere since.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait it out.
Yeah. You may have a long wait.
Yeah, I know. And then in certain countries, they take it to the next level. You gotta have on a mask all the time. Even if you're walking down the street, I'm like, oh my God.
Well, and that's been interesting because I'm coming from the reverse, right? So I lived in New Zealand and then I was in Australia and Singapore before coming back to America. And all of those countries wear a mask. I had to, with my phone, I had to check in and check out of everywhere I went, including the pharmacy. I had to show proof of vaccination. And that all made me feel safe. And I got used to it. I never saw it as like encroaching on my freedom. I saw it as I have my freedom because I'm willing to do these things. And then I came back to America and it's like, since December, I have not been asked for proof of vaccination once. And mask wearing in New York City is fairly a lot of people wear masks. I've been in Florida where fewer people wear masks or they wear them under their nose. So it's when you've spent years in a different culture again, where things were done, much more restricted. And then you get to a much more open culture in terms of how it's being handled. It takes a while to ease into that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. So what's next? I mean, how is this gonna be your way of life until
I as someone, I think as human beings, we are always in flux. And so, I'm a certified professional coach, and I've learned through being that and being an entrepreneur that we are constantly evolving. So I doubt very much that I will be doing this the rest of my life, because naturally I'm going to evolve somewhere and that'll take a different path somewhere. For right now, I fully embrace the full-time travel and I'm not done. But I'm also wanting to segue into more speaking, like public speaking and motivation and inspiration. And so, my next step would be getting into some more public forums to, travel and speak and see where that leads. So right now I have a TEDx talk that I'm working, that's done, and I just want to deliver it. So that will be fun.
Good. So where do most people find you when they're online or no, better yet, when you're out and about? Do people see you? Do they recognize you?
Only because I think because I've lived somewhere for a period of time and they recognize me that way. I don't know that I've ever met anyone that saw my blog and is like, oh, I know you, or something like that. But I'm on YouTube. I have a website, which is heatherbegins.com. So that's where people would find me there. Facebook. I have a Facebook group for full-time travelers as well. So probably that's how you, yes, thank you. That's my website.
Yeah.
So, and there's a link to the Facebook group if anyone wants to join. And it's all about, you know, creating community for the full-time travelers and giving some tips and sharing, you know, how to do it, how to afford it, and more.
There you have it. Like, share this episode. All links will be found in the show notes. I highly recommend you follow Heather, learn from her, because hey, I'm going to be learning too. Like I said, I still want to. I've been a lot of places, but I still want to go. I still want to go to Colombia, Brazil,
Yep.
Peru, places like that. I haven't been there. I just haven't thought about going there.
Yep.
You know. So hey, tell me what you think below. Until next time, we out. Peace.